Hey, everybody, George with the Art of Water. Happy Friday to you. Hope you guys have a great weekend planned ahead. I'm going to move my hand over here because I'm going to turn this around a little bit. I want to make sure you see that. Now, this is 4 days in to our treatment on this ick outbreak that we had from these new fish in a quarantine tank. As you can see, all the plants have been taken out. I don't know if that was in my last video or not, but all the plants were removed, and anything that would die based on the use of the treatment that we needed here. And so anyways, long story short, on the 4th day of treatment, as you can see, if we look really close at these fish, I would say 90% on 80% of the fish of the ick is actually gone. And the reason for, I think the smaller ones are suffering a little bit more with it. Even though they're still eating, there's still a little bit of spotting on them that's a little bit more prevalent, because I think the smaller ones just don't have the immune system built up that is enough to start eradicating this within this 4-day period. Now, I did a second dose 48 hours after the original of the cupramine, and I also upped the temperature. I'm at 89 degrees right now. I don't want to go any higher than that because I'm really concerned about how high I go and the tolerance of the fish for that level of temperature. But the other thing I don't know, and I've got to look this up, is autocichlids. I'm not familiar with how much temperature changes they can take as far as raising the temperature on this. So I've got to look that up today and find out a little bit more about that. But the big story here is that this cupramine is really working. It's a C-Chem product, and as I've said before, I swear by C-Chem. I really do. They're just a great company, and everything I've ever used as far as products from them has worked really, really well. So we're about 4 days into this now, and as I said, the signs of the ick are going away. Now we got to leave this tank for another 13 days, which means, and I keep a little note over here that's kind of telling me exactly where we're at on this. For about another 14 days, we have to leave the tank at the level we have it right now. No more dosing. Leaving it at the level that it's at right now for the 14 days. And then we've got to do something that's very, very important before we replant or rescape this tank and whatever. Now, some of you are probably looking at the rocks and going, okay, there's some coloring on the rocks. It's probably from the medication. Well, that's not quite right. That's actually algae. A little bit of algae growth on there. And the rocks were that color when I took all the plants out. And so there is no staining on my dragonstone there. That is actually just algae on there. Some people are concerned about staining when they use certain products to cure ick or to treat ick. And that can happen, but this particular type is guaranteed not to do that with your not only your hardscape, but also sometimes that can happen to the sealant that is on your tank as well. It can change color. Anyways, so we're 4 days in here. I'm seeing a lot of progress here. The fish are eating, which is very important because fish that eat are fish that are not really, really terribly sick. So that's very important. And it also, when they're eating like that, it builds their immune system up a little bit more and gives them a chance to fight off this ick along with the chemicals. Now, I don't like using chemicals, to be honest with you. I do have some organic stuff that I have used in the past. The tea, I can't remember what it's called. It's a product that I actually talked about one other time that I used on a betta fish, and it actually did a really good job with velvet and also with ick. And but I haven't had an ick outbreak in a very, very long time. And again, I would remind people that this is the reason why we have quarantine tanks, and that we put our fish into quarantine when we get them, so that we make sure that this doesn't happen in a general population, because you do that in one of your favorite tanks and you're just going to have a mess on your hands. So save yourself a lot of heartache and make sure that you do put your fish in a quarantine tank. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. This one happens to be because, well, I'm just able to do that. But if you really, really want to make sure that you do not have these problems in other tanks, you have to set up a quarantine tank. Now, I will give you another update here in another week or so, just to make sure that everything is going well here. Initially, we lost one fish out of the 7 rummy nose tetras that we had here. One of them died the first night after the ick outbreak took place, and the rest of them, I got on it right away, because as I said in my original video, having the cupramine on hand and being able to dose this tank very quickly without any running to the store or buying something online or whatever and having to wait a day or two, it's so important that when you see this, you just get on it. And I think that's part of the reason why we're having some success here. Now, we haven't beat this thing yet. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is the progress that is being made here is obvious, and these fish are looking way better than they were just a few days ago. So I think that it is safe to say that we're probably going to get this under control. Anyways, if you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear from you. Again, cupramine. This is one of the more benign products by Seachem that is very effective for ick. And I'm not promoting them because they're paying me or anything like that. I'm promoting them because I believe in their products. And it's not an endorsement. It's just more of a statement about the Seachem products and how much thought they put into them and how good they work for so many different things. If you're in this hobby, you're going to need some things such as prime, stability, again, cupramine, which is a medication, but even everyday products for water changes. And if you're cycling the tank and you're not sure if it's 100% cycled, that's stability. When I do a 50% water change, I do put a little bit of the stability in there with it, just to make sure that there's no compromising of the cycled tank in itself. You don't have to do that, and I'm not saying that I recommend that 100%. I'm just saying that I do that and it works for me. So what I do doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it, but I've found success in that. So I am headed to New York, and will not be back for a while, so somebody else is going to sort of kind of keep an eye on this tank and make sure that these guys are at least fed every day. We don't want to overfeed. That's the other thing I want to tell you. You can't do water changes in here for 14 days. So you have to be extremely careful that you're making sure that you are not overfeeding these fish, because that in itself can create huge problems in the tank. And we don't need that on top of the ick. A foul tank is not going to be a good thing for any fish. So they are going to get a minimum amount of food that they will eat in a short period of time, and we'll just be extremely careful about that. One of the disappointments I do have, I don't know if you noticed this up here or not, but on this, can't see it very well here, on the the heater that I purchased for this specific tank, because I did want to have something new where I could crank this up to a very good. The little knob on the top is cracked. I mean, just after a week or so. It's an Aqueon product. I don't know much about them, but I do know that this is something I'm going to have to take back and have it replaced, because something was very obvious to me when I was turning it, that there was a lot of resistance on it, and I'm not sure why, because there was nothing there that on the instructions it indicated that you had to do anything in particular to get that knob easily moving to the temperature that you wanted. There was a little resistance on all those because it's easy to over dial them and that sort of thing. Anyways, long story short, we have fish that are doing better, and I think long term, I think we're going to be safe here, and these fish are probably going to survive. I do have a little concern about one who's kind of a runt to the crowd here. He's still got more ick on him than I would like to see, but I'm hoping in the next 24 to 48 hours, my son will send me some pictures, and I'll have an idea as to how well we're doing. Anyways, this is George with the Art of Water. Again, thank you. Please hit the subscribe button. Please give me a thumbs up, and if you have any comments, leave them at the bottom, and we'll talk again soon. We'll get you an update on this little ick outbreak that we had here. And again, Rummy, great product, and made by Chem, and I hope everybody will, if you have a situation like this, and again, I'm going to stress it one more time before I take off here, a tank that you put your fish in, called a quarantine tank, is so important. And if you have a situation like this, obviously so much easier to treat it than it would be if you didn't. So, and save yourself a lot of problems that you don't need. Anyways, George with the Art of Water, and hope you guys all have a good week ahead, and well, good weekend ahead, I guess. This is Friday, so a good weekend ahead would be a good start here, and also a good week ahead because I'm not going to be in town. But thank you for watching our channel, and again, we appreciate it, and we hope that if you do have any problems with ick or anything like that, that you actually can follow these instructions very well, get on top of it really quickly, have a quarantine tank, and make sure that you got things going really fast on treating it, because it's going to be really important as to whether or not your fish make it. And ick is a very common thing with fish, but it's a drag when you've got it in your community tanks, and it can happen. It can happen to people that have been in the hobby for years, like me. It can happen. So with that said, George with the Art of Water, hope you have a great weekend. We'll talk again soon.